Exclusive polling shows President Joe Biden continues to face challenges in garnering support among Catholic voters ahead of this year's midterm election. A new EWTN News Real Clear opinion research survey shows 46% of Catholics polled either strongly approve or approve of how Joe Biden is doing as president. Nearly 52% either strongly disapprove or disapprove of his job performance. For analysis, we are joined by Matthew Bunson, executive editor and Washington bureau chief for EWTN News, Carl Cannon, Washington bureau chief for Real Clear Politics, and on Skype, Susan Crabtree, White House and national political correspondent for Real Clear Politics. Good to be with you all. Susan, I want to start with you. These polls are really trying to gauge where Catholic voters are as we head towards the midterms. Looking at these results, what is your sense in regards to Catholic voters right now?
Well, it's interesting because we looked at the same dynamic that was going in back in July at the midterms. And at that time, Catholic voters were evenly split on who they were going to vote for, whether it was a Democrat or Republican. And now we see that bumped up a little bit towards Republicans, with Republicans maintaining about 4-point advantage. And that's a bit better than the Republicans are doing in the Real Clear Politics average of polls, where they're only ahead about 1 or 2%. When it comes to Joe Biden and his approval rating, it's interesting because in 2020, the Catholic vote really helped push President Biden over the finish line, with them Catholic voters supporting him 52% to 47% for Donald Trump. And when you look at his approval rating, that's really flipped now. The Catholic voters are approving him only with about a 46% margin, or 46%, and 52% are disapproving him. And that's actually a little bit better than Biden is faring with average voters, all voters, according to the Real Clear Politics average. So he's doing a little bit better, but still underwater with the Catholic vote.
Yeah, and Carl, I want to go to you now. What's sort of driving these poll results with Catholics?
Well, it certainly isn't education. We asked about that issue. Fewer than 2% of people rank it as the top issue. It's not immigration, which the Republicans hope will be a big issue in the midterms. That's about 10%. It's not abortion, which Democrats hope will be a big issue. That's also about 10%. It's the economy. And, you know, we asked two ways, you know, inflation, like 34%. This is the top issue in the country. And then we broke it down, economy and jobs, second category, almost 20%. So 54% of Americans right now, of Catholic voters. And this tracks with the national numbers, but Catholic voters are even more intensely interested in the economy.
Yeah. Very interesting. I mean, across the board, that's what people are worried about. Matthew, I want to talk about this. As you know, the question of mass attendance as a predictor of how Catholics will vote, that has come up before in other polls. Let's take a look at that now in this poll. How did that fare?
Well, we have long been using the mass attendance as a way of gauging how Catholics are going to vote. That was borne out in 2020. It's borne out again in these polls. What we see is that there is a wide disparity between those Catholics who attend Mass either daily or weekly and those who attend either yearly or never. The president is in dire straits among Catholics who attend Mass on a daily or weekly basis. I think he has a disapproval of about 75%. Among those who are going to Mass much less frequently, he has approval about 54%. So that is quite the disparity, but we see that also mirrored in many ways in plans to vote for Republicans versus Democrats in the midterms. You have similar gulfs that exist. That's going to be an important predictor, because if one or either one of those groups turns out, as we expect they will, Mass-attending Catholics seem more motivated to go to vote than those who don't. So that could be a factor in there as well. And then we can look at all of the other issues relating to whether or not he should run again. Similar numbers, 75% of those who attend Mass on a regular basis, weekly or daily, do not want him to run for re-election. About 53% want him to run. So again, those disparities are something we have to chart very closely.
Yeah, absolutely. Very interesting right there. Susan, I want to go back out to you. The Democrats, they've really made abortion and post-Dobbs world a major component of their midterm strategy. What does this poll reveal on the issue of abortion at this point in the campaign?
I thought it was pretty interesting because you have Catholic voters very split on whether they agree with the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe versus Wade and return abortion policy to the states, with 46%. 0.2% supporting that decision and 47.8% disagreeing with that. But at the same time, when you look at whether what they personally agree with in terms of abortion policy, you have most Catholics agreeing with the decision that the abortion should only be allowed in cases of rape and incest in the life of the mother. And they also agree with Senator Graham that it should be limited to 15 weeks. So, it's interesting because they say they're not going to decide who to vote for based on the abortion issue, and that abortion only rates about 10% on terms of what they think is the most important issue going into the midterm elections. But when you ask them what they personally believe in, they're more limited, of course, in what they believe in terms of what they think should be allowable.
Yeah, and Carl, I want to pose this question to you. It seems to point, this poll at least, to a potentially major shift when it comes to Hispanic voters. Can you talk a little bit more about that? They're going away from the president and his Democrat Party.
Well, the generic ballot, is split about evenly with Hispanics, and it's part of the modern coalition. The Democrats expect to get majorities of Latinos. This doesn't show they're doing that with Roman Catholics. Catholics also are not, Hispanic Catholics also do not want President Biden to run again. They're cool to that idea. A majority say no. So it might be a shift, or it might be simply that working class issues, economic issues for working class people are overwhelming these other issues.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you all so very much for being here today and talking about these very important issues. We appreciate it.